Are there noticeable differences between two identical lenses? We're going to be comparing two vintage 28mm FD lenses to find out. Welcome to Battle Royale with Cheese. Both are 28mm. Both are new FD or the NFD mounts. Both are f2.8s. Both are made in Japan. I recently read that Stanley Kubrick would order 10 identical lenses, pick the one out that he liked the best, and send the rest back. Both of these lenses appear to be identical, but as we begin to look closer, the 1984 version has the focal distance printed on the lens barrel in white and green here. The 1976 version has the focal distance debossed into the barrel, then printed into the relief of the debossing. FYI, the top ring is the focal distance, the middle is the depth of field, and the bottom is the manual aperture, where the aperture is set to f4. If we look at the depth of field ring above the 4s, the focus is set between 1 and 1.5 meters, so the depth of field is 1/2 meter deep at this distance. The 1976 lens has the same depth of field at that focal distance. The orange line indicates the focus is peaking at around 1.25 meters. If we focus a little further out, we see the depth of field increases by 3 times to about 1.5 meters deep at a distance of around 2.25 meters. Again, the same on both lenses. If we zoomed into just over a foot, we'll see the depth of field shrinks to around 1 inch, and it's the same on both lenses. There's 5 blades giving the aperture a pentagon shape, but I've only ever noticed around Bokeh. The left side images will be with the 1984 lens. The right side images will be with the 1976 lens. The top 2 frames are extremely close up, focused at 1 foot. The bottom frames are close up, focused at 1/2 meter. Artificially lit under a 5500K LED panel. If you look at the top 2 images and focus on the Tiki's orange feet, you'll see the left one is blurred while the right one is a little more detail. I held the camera against the end of the shelf, so it's not perfect, but even still, the focal length looks longer on the left and zoomed in on the top right. If you look a little further back in the top 2 images, you see the little white bokeh balls and the green, what do you call that green thing? I don't know. Anyways, the bokeh looks pretty much the same to me. Now, if you look at the bottom 2 images and focus on the Tiki's nose and cheeks, you'll notice the left image has more contrast than the right. It's easier if you quickly jog your eyes between the two. If you focus on the back wall of the left image versus the right image, you'll notice there's more saturation on the right pictures, especially if you jog your eyes back and forth and don't give them a chance to correct for color. The wall is a little more colorful on the right and a little more gray on the left. So instead of jogging your eyes, I focused on the back Tiki, which is medium close-up distance, and toggled between the 2 lenses. If you look at the now focused Tiki's top or his hair, the top of him, you'll notice the contrast differences, as well as in your peripheral, you'll see the saturation differences. Remember, this is lit with a 5500K panel, so the lighting is the same. Now we'll focus on the back wall at about 3 meters away. If you see there's an orange vase against the wall there, it's in focus. And you'll see the color of the walls clearly change from a gray to a more saturated color. Now we'll vary the focal distances on the 1984 lens only, with the aperture closed down to f4. Now we'll go between the 2 lenses, racking from extreme close-up to medium close-up to long. All I noticed was the depth of field was a little deeper on both and more reinforcing of the contrast and saturation differences. Now starting with the 1976 lens, wide open outside on a human subject on a cloudy winter day. Notice the depth of field. Her ear and hair is a little blurry, but there's still nice bokeh. At close range, her hair and ear is more focused, but the hand is still blurred, and there's still nice bokeh. At medium close-up range, her hand and her full head is in focus, and there's enough bokeh to separate her from the background. At f4, the depth of field is barely deeper, and the bokeh is just a little bit sharper. This is all going through an ND filter. I eyeballed the histogram to be in the middle and only adjusted the ND filter. Now we'll do the same with the 1984 lens, first wide open. Just looks a little bit more contrasty, and the bokeh looks a little more blown out. Now we go to f4 on the 84 lens. The trend continues. There's more contrast, less saturation, looks a little sharper. Now, these lenses are obviously not for photographers. It's for filmmakers. These images are 1920 by 1080 captured screenshots with motion blur in all its glory. So now we'll do a side-by-side of the Bokeh at different apertures. You can see the top one is clearly more blown out at f2.8. Now focusing a little farther, a little less blown out. And even further, it's less blown out, and the aperture also makes it a little sharper. No surprises. And now we'll check the Bokeh at smaller apertures, still focused pretty close, starting at 5.6, f8, f11, 16. Now we're doing both lenses. The sun started peeking out, so we can't really talk about the color, but we could still talk about the Bokeh and compare those. Now, we could have done some deeper focus comparisons. With these lenses, I'm sure they'd be great, but the wind picked up and it got too cold, so we packed it in. In summary, the 1984 lens is sharper, more contrast, so it's better for noir. The 1976 lens has more saturation and better for a retro aesthetic. Both lenses have a retro look and are great quality and very durable. They've been kicking around for generations, literally, and are still working flawlessly. Thanks for watching. Click thumbs up and subscribe to bask in our future brilliance.